welcome to Walking and Talking. I'm Josh.
And I'm William.
When I was growing up, one of the commercials that I oftentimes saw was the Dos Equis man commercials. He was, quote, the most interesting man in the world. And during my 7 years at Emmaus, I do think if there was a person in our church who deserved the honor and the title of the most interesting man in the church, I do believe it's William Schleifer, Dr. Pastor William Schleifer, here with me. So today we're going to look at Pastor Schleifer's life, get to know him a little bit more, and see some of the things that he has unique experiences and talents within. As we started, Pastor, where did you grow up? What was your early life like? Family?
Yeah, so I was actually born not too far away in Ames, Iowa. Both my parents went to Iowa State University. And very quickly after graduation, Dad got a job in Georgia. So I grew up in what was then billed as the poultry capital of the world, Gainesville, Georgia. My dad is a poultry veterinarian, and so he specializes in population health with chickens, turkeys.
Well,
and so he was employed there for quite some time. And that's where I grew up. And then, so going on from there, when I was going into seventh grade, kind of a lifelong dream of my father's was to buy a chicken farm and teach us, lifelong lessons of caring for animals and doing hard work and responding to emergencies. And I don't think he was anticipating that many emergencies as we had to respond to, but we had quite a eventful growing up years on the poultry farm. We had 45,000 broiler, which are the meat chickens, and then 30 head of cattle and some other animals, but those were the main animals that we had.
Wow. Is 45,000 chickens, is that standard for commercial operations, or is that low, high?
That's considered a small farm.
Wow.
And a lot of the farms around us had kind of the average farm was 100,000 plus.
Well,
but for broiler chickens, now for layer egg operations, they're generally a little bit smaller. But anyway, so we've got the time on the farm up through high school. Now, of course, well, I guess not of course, but I was home educated. I went to Christian school in kindergarten, and that was really when the homeschool movement was starting up, and Mom was first finding out about that. And so very early on in the homeschool movement, my mom pulled me out of school, and she homeschooled my brother and I through the end of high school. And then I went to college at Bob Jones University in Greenville, South Carolina. That's a Christian college. That is a liberal arts college. I majored in biology and piano performance, so took 5 years to get 2 degrees. And then from then, I did medical school at Medical College of Georgia, which is in Augusta, Georgia, home of the Masters. And then my residency was at University of Alabama in Birmingham. That was internal medicine residency, cardiology fellowship in Phoenix, Arizona, at Mayo Clinic there. And then after that, electrophysiology fellowship at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. And so that's kind of where we've been before arriving here. I met Mary my last year of college at Bob Jones. We'll probably get into that a little bit later. We were married during my 4th year of medical school. And then Miranda was born when we were in Phoenix, Arizona. Rosemary was born when we were in Rochester, Minnesota. And right before Rosemary was born, and I'm talking about either like a week before Mary is due or even the week that Mary's due. I forget exactly the time sequence, but my program director at Mayo Clinic said, William, you need to apply for a job. And I'm like, yeah, I know I need to apply for a job. Well, he's like, you need to apply for a job like now. You need to start looking now.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
was he forewarning you of something that
well,
he knew of that you didn't know of?
No, he's just probably knew that I would, just from my personality, probably procrastinate on this kind of thing.
I see.
Because I was already, when he approached me with this, I was already starting to plan my procrastination strategy. Like I was, we've got baby coming, and like, does it have to be right now? Well, anyway, so he said, yeah, and what you need to do is you need to send these programs a letter of interest to say, hey, I'm interested in a job at your place, and can you send me more information? And here's my resume, and in medicine we call it the CV for curriculum vitae, but send them your resume and all that. And he said, and by the way, I have this email from the program at the University of Nebraska Medical Center.
Okay.
And so he said, give them a, look into them.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, sure.
So it seems like
I'll look at that.
He was looking out for you, it seemed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, he was really looking out for me. And I was, a little overwhelmed at the time. And I mean, Mary and I had not really talked a lot about where we wanted to end up ultimately. So growing up in the Southeast, obviously, and Mary grew up in the Southeast. Her folks live in Greenville, South Carolina. So until we moved away from the Southeast, we were kind of always envisioning ourselves in the Southeast.
Yeah.
And so Nebraska never really was on our radar. And
it's on very few people's radars, I believe.
I think so. But anyway, so here's how it happened, was that it was kind of like, okay, well, I got to send out my applications to lots of places.
Yeah.
And as far as this job that was open in Nebraska, like they were limited to U.S. citizens because they didn't have room for someone on a visa. And in my fellowship class at Mayo, I was actually the only one in my class who was U.S. citizen.
Really?
And so it was like, okay, he got this email from the chief at...
Was that accidental, or was Mayo intentionally trying to find foreign students?
Well, so I don't know. Well, I never was on their admissions committee or involved in any of the interviews, so I don't know if there was an intentional thing there. But Mayo is... not only is it internationally renowned, but it has an international presence, and especially Mayo Clinic in Rochester. So they really do attract the best of the best from all over the world.
Yeah.
And so
you were the best of the best in America, according to that.
I mean, it was a real honor to be
you were one
there.
of one.
One of one. I was... but I mean, I really, the fellows who were with me, that trained with me, they became good buddies, and we still keep up with each other. So
Great.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Every year they send out texts when the national meeting is about to happen, saying, "Are you going? Let's catch up."
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was, I was really the only one that could actually apply for this position in my class. And so I was like, well, I've got to do a courtesy interview and that sort of thing. Might as well get my feet wet with this position in Nebraska. And then I had the initial phone interview with the guy who was, at that point in time, head of the electrophysiology section, which is the subspecialty that I'm in, electrical part of cardiology.
Yeah.
And I was just chatting with him with this phone interview. I was like, man, this is my kind of guy. Like, I would love to work with this guy.
What drew you to him?
So we have a very similar sense of humor. We have a kind of lighthearted approach, which, I mean, it kind of surprises the cardiology trainees at UNMC when they work with me that I can be a little bit of a jokester. And
I do want to say the amount of times there's been, belly laughing in elders meetings.
I'm usually the culprit.
You're 10 for 10 out of being the culprit. It's just a zinger coming out from left field. That's just wonderful. Multiple tears will be streaming down faces. You just don't expect it.
Boy. Yeah. So, and this guy and I just hit it off in that phone interview.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, yeah, of course I want to come down there and interview. But still, even though I hit it off with this guy, like, you don't make a lifetime decision based on one conversation with one guy, or at least I hope you don't.
But it seems you did.
No. I went down to Omaha for a interview, and this is now after Rosemary's born. But again, I talked with Mary, and we were still trying to figure out where we wanted to end up. And we knew we didn't want to end up anywhere that was colder than Rochester, Minnesota, anywhere that was hotter than Phoenix, Arizona. But that's pretty much the whole country. So anyway, we lived in the hottest place and the coldest place.
Yeah. Doesn't exclude many options.
Right. Yeah. So we knew we didn't want to go to North Dakota, but that's basically the only place.
Yeah. So it seems like you had some experience in the Bible Belt, some experience in a very secular New England, also in the arid West.
Yeah.
And then you got to the Midwest.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we really liked being in the Midwest from a culture perspective. We have really good friends still in the Southeast and in Phoenix. And when we were in Phoenix, we were heavily involved with a church plant there, and it was really hard leaving Phoenix.
Yeah.
That church plant actually is what introduced me to 9 Marks.
Great.
And as the pastors were working on planting that church, they were very intentional at explaining what they were doing. So a lot of my familiarity with 9 Marks, ecclesiology, the thought process that goes into our Constitution and that sort of thing is stuff that I learned there at that church in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah. What's the name of that church?
Cross Point Baptist Church.
Great.
And it's in North Phoenix.
Awesome.
And so, yeah. So it was really tough moving away from there. But the thing with medicine residency and fellowship is you don't have a lot of choice. You make what you call a rank order list where number 1, number 2, number 3.
Yeah.
And I didn't always get my number 1 pick. And so it's based on what your picks are and what the programs pick you. They rank all the candidates that interview there, and then some computer somewhere matches it all up.
Yeah.
But we know that God's in control.
Yeah.
And every step of the way, it was the right place for me to go.
Yeah.
So
that's how we got from Georgia to Omaha.
Yeah.
So what I heard is your dad was a poultry veterinarian, mom was a housewife, homeschooler, full-time. Were you raised in a Christian family? When did you come to know the Lord? How did your conversion come about?
Yeah, so both my parents came to know the Lord in adulthood, and I think mom was in her teens when she came to know the Lord.
Yeah.
And so they raised me in a Christian home. I actually came to know the Lord when Dad explained the gospel to me when I was almost 5.
Wow.
And
they do family worship?
Yeah.
Great.
Yep. So
praise the Lord.
And that's something that and they were very intentional about making sure that my brother and I were in good, strong Bible preaching churches.
Yeah.
So
were they cutting their teeth on like Martin Lloyd-Jones? Who were the people that were forming your parents?
Well, they...
Or was it just a small, no-name pastor, which is the best pastor?
Yeah, so I mean, it was a lot of the Bob Jones. So Mom went to Bob Jones University, and so he got a lot of materials and books about the Bible from Bob Jones, and then other. Yeah, and so that's really, there was a real heavy Bob Jones influence, and that's one of the things that actually drew my parents to move south, was to be closer to Bob Jones University. Yeah, and they wanted me to go there, and both me and my brother went there for college.
So being from the Midwest, I'm not personally as familiar with Bob Jones. I know it's probably a conservative, like heavy Bible institute.
Yeah, so...
Or some distinctives there.
So some distinctives about Bob Jones University. It was founded in 1927 by
Bob Jones.
A guy named Bob Jones. Yeah. Not to be confused with Bobby Jones, the golfer. Now, so going to Augusta, Georgia, where there is the Bobby Jones Expressway named after Bobby Jones, the golfer. Yeah. I occasionally rub shoulders with people who know more about Bobby Jones than Bob Jones. But.
So was Bob Jones posthumously named Bob Jones University, or did he come in and say, hey, my name's Bob Jones and I'm starting Bob Jones University?
The story is that... So Bob Jones was an evangelist. He traveled the country, and he was really burdened about the fact that young people were losing their faith in secular colleges. And this was before there were a lot of Christian colleges. Back then, there were some Christian colleges. A lot of them had headed the liberal direction. Yeah. And so he was not really an academic himself, but he was like, hey, we need to do something here.
Yeah, and I see a problem. I want to help find a solution.
And so he rallied a bunch of people around him to start a college. It started in Florida. Great. And then the board decided that because of Bob Jones' visibility as a evangelist of the time, that they wanted to name the college Bob Jones University. The story is that Bob Jones himself didn't want it named after him, but
that's good to hear.
He conceded to the board.
I see.
And so Bob Jones Sr., and then it was kind of the first president. His son, Bob Jones Jr., was a bit more academically minded, more into the liberal arts, and he was the one that really established Bob Jones as a strong liberal arts college.
Hmm.
And so it moved from Florida to Tennessee, and then after World War II came to Greenville, South Carolina, where it is now.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons I went to Bob Jones University is that strong liberal arts. And so, like, I doubt there's really very many Christian colleges where I could have gotten as strong of a science education,
Hmm.
and then got a really solid piano education as well.
Yeah.
So,
You mentioned it was there that you met Mary. How did
Yes.
that interaction come about?
yeah, so a very complex story that shows that God is in control of everything.
Yeah.
So, in college, there are, for one thing, if I had just been a biology major, I would have graduated the year before I met Mary
Yeah.
and gone on to medical school. But I wanted to get that last degree, or that second degree in piano,
Yeah.
because, now I have something to show for all my piano work. Like, I've got an actual degree in piano.
Yeah.
And so I stayed on an extra year. For that piano degree, I had to get a foreign language. And so the foreign language that I chose was New Testament Greek.
Yeah.
And then...
This is at Georgia, right?
No, this
Sorry,
is
Bob Jones. Sorry.
This is Bob Jones.
All right.
So Bob Jones, being a Christian university,
Yeah.
is a great place to learn New Testament Greek.
Yeah.
They've got a solid Greek faculty. And so I started New Testament Greek, and so when I was in high school, I had worked on learning Latin, and I say this just as background because I don't remember hardly any of the Latin that I learned. Don't ask me questions about Latin. But because I'd had that Latin, it made learning Greek a lot easier.
Good.
And so in New Testament Greek, I'm like, okay, I'm actually learning this pretty well. I made a joke with one of my friends about, hey, if I study this over Christmas break, do you think I could test out a second semester? And he said, don't do it, but I'll loan you a book. And so I took that book home, read it over Christmas break, came back, tested out a second semester.
Wow. I'm about to start Greek, so do you mind passing me that book?
Yeah. No, like it's a good book. So it's Mounce's Basics of New Testament Greek. And then doing third semester Greek in the off semester actually worked better with my schedule. And so it freaked everyone out, but it was neat to actually take that. And then I was like, well, hey, if I study Greek again over the summer, then I could place out of fourth semester Greek, and then I could get into book classes. So the way Greek is taught in college is you have 4 semesters of Greek, and then you get into the book classes. And the place where you really learn the Bible is in those book classes. And that's really why I was taking Greek, was to get into the Bible. It wasn't like I'm not conjugating verbs for the rest of my life. But anyway, so I say that to say, if I had not done that, and if God hadn't somehow led me to do this crazy studying extra in something that wasn't even related to my major, I would never met Mary.
Yeah.
Because we met in the book class, Prison Epistles.
Yeah.
And she came in the last minute. I was already sitting down. It was a small classroom. There were 3 rows,
Yeah.
And so no one sat in the front row. The back row was full. And so the only available seat when she came in was next to me. And then kind of the rest is history. We
There we
started
go.
talking to each other, found out that we had a lot of common interests.
Yeah.
And
How many broilers did she have on the farm?
well, no, so that was not a common interest, the farm stuff. But on the other hand, like, we both love music. We both love the Bible. And we just started talking with each other. And by the middle of that semester, this is my last semester of college, I'm like, okay, I kind of got to make a decision if we're going to keep up with this long term, or if we're just going to say, hey, it was nice to meet you, and I'm going to go off to medical school.
Yeah.
And it was pretty clear that we wanted to pursue this. Now,
you told her that you wanted to conjugate Greek verbs together for the rest of your lives.
Not really. But no, we do review passages together.
Awesome.
And I like, with it being summer in the Psalms, I don't know Hebrew. And
because Mary knows 5 languages.
Well, Mary knows Greek and Hebrew.
Yeah.
And then there are parts of the Old Testament that are written in Aramaic. And so she's able to read that as well.
Oh, there were 2 dead languages
English too.
That is true. That's true.
But English and Greek are really the only and
she's gonna make fun of me, but I thought she knew like 2 dead languages, like the Philistine or something like that.
I don't think there's anything written in Philistine.
That's why she's gonna laugh at me when she hears this. Fool, but I thought there were 2, like...
Maybe we'll get back to... We don't want us both to look like fools.
That's true. Well, I will say, I remember when I first came, I remember seeing your daughters, particularly Miranda, because she was older. I think Rosemary was still maybe 4, wasn't as conversational with strangers like me. But I remember seeing Miranda, I'm like, I think you are smarter as an 8-year-old than I was at 18. But it makes sense because she's got the genetics between you and Mary as these 2 just... incredibly gifted, intellectually savvy people.
Well, like I said, God had his hand in our lives, and any gifts that we have is entirely through God's work.
Yeah.
And God has certainly given us 2 wonderful daughters.
Yeah.
And it's really also a gift to be here at Emmaus. And so through all the moves that we've been through, we've been at several different churches.
Yeah.
And
is medicine similar to the military where you're kind of moving every 2 or 3 years?
Well, not necessarily, but it kind of worked out that way. And some folks at some of the churches that we went to, first question was, are you military? Because we were, moving in pretty much every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And Miranda actually, she probably doesn't remember this, but about a year after we moved here, Miranda actually asked when we were moving again. And I'm like, we're settling down for a while. Yeah.
Gonna plant some roots. Great.
Not going to move every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. So talking about God's work in your life, what have been some ways that marriage, fatherhood has been sanctifying, the joys of it, challenges?
Well, the joys of it is to see God working despite your lack of competence. You see that God's mercy, and like you understand that whether we're talking about being a pastor, a father, a doctor, you can't change people. but you see God changing yourself, changing your children, and it's humbling, and it's also joyful. And that's the sanctifying aspect of it, is you have to submit to the Lord. And I don't like surprises. But when you've got, you submit your rank order list, and then on, quote, match day, you find out where you and your wife are moving to for the next 3 years of your life. You really have to trust the Lord. And, and every single one of our moves, every single one, we moved there not knowing what church we'd be going to. And so by the time we moved to Nebraska, my wife and I were expert church visitors, and
knew the right questions to ask.
Yeah. So, and like, she and I decided that when we moved to the place where we're going to be living for a while, we're going to visit a lot of churches. We're going to ask a lot of questions. We're going to take our time.
Yeah.
And then we visited Emmaus, and we stopped visiting churches. We stopped taking our time. And we're like, okay, we want to be members.
Yeah. You guys came in 2017,
2017. Okay. Yeah. Which is an important year in the history of Emmaus.
That was a pretty tumultuous time in the history of Emmaus.
That was when the new constitution was adopted.
Yeah.
And
was that before or after the church split, if I could call it that?
Well, so that was after the big, quote, church split that Matt Fudge talks about, where, he talks about a time when roughly half the church left. And so that was before us.
I see.
But with changing to a new constitution, and then with Eric Raymond's departure, there were quite a few people that left with, disagreement with regards to the changes in the Constitution, or because with Pastor Eric leaving, made it a good time to check out other places.
Yeah. So you came, at a time where the dust was still settling on some of those issues.
Yeah. We were here long enough to get to know the Raymonds, and we've been we've been to Boston a couple times and seen them again. And so, it's always good to see them. And I highly recommend anyone who's in the Boston area to check out Pastor Eric's church. And if you're in Connecticut, check out Pastor Thomas's.
Is it Redeemer Baptist or Redeemer Fellowship for Pastor Eric?
Yeah, Redeemer Fellowship.
Yeah, over there in Boston, Watertown, actually, I believe.
Yep.
And then if you're in Connecticut and you're for some reason interested in listening to us talk, Richfield Baptist Church, you can visit Pastor Thomas Anderson.
Yes.
Great.
So
how did you go from conjugating Greek verbs and doing electrocardiac surgeries to becoming a pastor as well, and on top of all those other duties? How'd that kind of storyline come forth?
Yeah. Again, this is a development over time.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I loved studying the Bible. And this was really, again, what drove me to do a whole lot more than I really needed to in Greek, is because I wanted to study the Bible more. Now, when I was in college, I had the attitude of pastor versus doctor as kind of an either or proposition. And my framework was thinking of pastor as a single pastor, or maybe there's a pastor and a youth pastor, because that's all the churches I had been to had one pastor and a deacon board, or a pastor, a youth pastor, and a deacon board. And the pastor was always, a step above the youth pastor. And so consequently, I was like, I do not feel called. And that was how people in my circles then phrased it is, are you called to full-time ministry? Which, if you're called to full-time ministry, then you choose between pastor, missionary, evangelist. If you're not called to full-time ministry, then, well, those options are pretty much out.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of viewed as an either-or proposition. And I'm like, I've got a strong interest in medicine. Medicine is a great way to minister to people. Medicine is a great way to use my talents, and I'm going to pursue that. And so I went into medical school, and when I was in medical school, I really didn't have opportunity to think about anything else. My Greek got rusty, and probably still is, but anyway.
Did your piano get rusty?
Piano, I was able to maintain playing piano throughout, obviously not as much as I was in college, but throughout medical school residency and fellowship. And actually performed some along the way. But it really wasn't until we were in the church plant in Phoenix, Arizona, that we were in a church. Again, this was the first 9 Marks. This was the first time I've ever heard of 9 Marks, was in Phoenix, Arizona. And the first time I've ever heard of a plurality of elders. And the pastor there insisted on holding off on chartering the church until he had a second elder, so that there could be a plurality of elders.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, what? Huh? And then I was like, well, yeah, that makes sense for accountability reasons. And then fast forward to here, as I was thinking about the eldership, I was like, I should study this in the Bible. I don't know why it took me this long to get to the point where I studied this in the Bible.
Yeah.
But this is, 2019, or probably 2019 when I'm actually studying this in the Bible.
Because I remember you were in that Sermons of the Church class with Luke.
Yeah.
I just remember Luke would hand out these 2-page paper kind of assignments every month.
Right.
And, you'd have 6 guys go around, they give their 2 pages, and then there'd be this stack that would get plopped onto the desk or the table from you. And you had quite literally conjugated the Greek verbs, gotten into the original languages, and typically they're 14, 15-page papers.
Yeah, well, and this was kind of my opportunity, and I really honestly wasn't doing this to show off. It was me trying to learn this for myself, because even at Bob Jones, I took biblical doctrines, and no one talked about plurality of elders.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a little introduction to Presbyterian polity, but no discussion of, what does the Bible say about plurality of elders? And lo and behold, every time that elder is used in the Bible with regards to a church, it's always in the plural.
Yeah.
So when it's used in the singular, it's referring to a specific person, like in First Peter, when Peter calls himself, I am an elder, well, obviously he uses a singular.
Yeah.
But when it's talking about the elders of the church of Antioch or the elders of the church of Philippi, it's always in the plural. And I'm like, how did I never see this?
Yeah.
But I never.
Acts 14 was the text that blew kind of my mind open. Paul and Barnabas are going back to the churches they had planted, and they're raising up in every one of those churches elders, plural,
right,
in every one of those churches that they had planted previously on their missionary journeys.
Yep. And I read these verses who knows how many times.
Yeah.
But
you said to look for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I specifically approached the scriptures with that question that I said, wow, it's all over the place.
Yeah. Great. Well, it's been a joy to have you as whether you want to call it a lay pastor or non-staff pastor. You've brought many talents, experiences, and just wisdom to the team that I've seen. So I think our church has been richly blessed. I think it's just an encouragement to other men who might be full-time school teacher or accountant or what have you outside of a full-time vocational career. There is a role for men who aspire to the ministry and yet want to maintain a full-time vocation outside of the local church.
Yeah.
I think you're a testament to that.
And I would say that, while churches who follow a different model, they're not necessarily, I wouldn't say that they're like in sin or disobedient, but I would say that they're, probably missing out on that, having using the gifts that God has given the men in their congregation. Mm-hmm. And, frequently, I think the point of this is made in some of the 9 Marks material. Frequently, the churches that have a single pastor model have deacons that are elder qualified and deacons that are actually more functioning as elders rather than deacons. Yeah. And so it's just, I think this is a better way.
Yeah. Ever since I came to Emmaus and also got indoctrinated, if you will, in the 9 Marks, MRA, MARKS, not MARX, just to clarify. Whenever I come across a story of a pastoral failure, there's just this odd common denominator that they always are at churches where they are the sole isolated pastor. That doesn't mean that if you have a plurality of elders, you're automatically bulletproof. I'm just saying in the last 7 years, whenever a name comes up where it just found out that there was a moral failure or abusive leadership, it's always either the guy wasn't attached to a local church or he was a part of a local church, but there was no peer accountability because he had been elevated to such a individualized role as kind of like the CEO, the king, if you will, of the church. And I find it interesting that there's that common denominator.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So 2 things that have come up in your testimony, just your life, there's these talents that the Lord has blessed you with music and with medicine. And so I remember one conversation I had with you after church, just seeing your depth of knowledge in apologetics. How would you describe how medicine has actually helped to benefit you in regards to just your Christian understanding of the world, God's creation, in regards to giving a defense and a reason for the faith?
Yeah, boy, that's you could do a full podcast on that question. So, I mean, medicine day by day, you see the effects of the curse every single day. And also the limitations of our best efforts. And the builders of the Tower of Babel, no matter how much they built, they could never get to heaven.
Yeah.
And in medicine today, no matter how much technology advances, will never be able to reverse the curse using man-made technology.
Yeah.
Now, I do use man-made technology with the goal of making people better.
Mm-hmm.
However, there are still limitations, and there are no guarantees that what I do is going to make people better.
Yeah.
And I think probably one of the biggest humbling experiences, even soul-searching experiences, is when you, with the best intentions, doing the best job you can, and there is a bad outcome. And that's difficult. I think probably the biggest, we're kind of straying from apologetics into
take whichever way you'd like.
Yeah. Into sanctification.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest lessons, so to speak, to learn for me is, am I going to be okay with God taking the life of one of my patients? I mean, he's in control of whether they live or die.
Yeah.
And it's a sobering reality that I'm not in control.
Yeah.
And so gotta trust the Lord, trust at the same time, thankfully, that's not an everyday experience. So most of the time things go well. Most of the time I'm able to make a good, big difference in people's lives. And I've really been able to have some good conversations with people who are not believers, people who are believers and been there at the time where they needed encouragement. And these are really great ways that the practice of medicine can minister to people.
Yeah.
I think as far as apologetics goes, you see every aspect of the human physiology, and you see how well designed the human body is.
Yeah.
And you see how much intelligence there is in how the human body is constructed and all that, how much built-in redundancy, so to speak, how much built-in the human body is designed to heal itself, so to speak. There's a lot of healing mechanisms that obviously were functioning perfectly before the curse. No longer do they function perfectly. And so it's more like, okay, I arrange things or I adjust things from a medical perspective, or cut out infection or that sort of thing, and then it's God's creation. The body then heals from that point. So medicine is a wonderful field to be in.
Yeah. You have any stories that you'd be willing to share, whether they would be stories that just showed you God's glory as a creator of this human body, or whether it's funny stories of you being a jokester with your residency students? Any stories that you'd like to share from medicine?
Well, so I don't know. A lot of the stories of me being a jokester with the residents and trainees are inside medical jokes. And that's one of the things that makes them so good, is because they completely take people by surprise. I mean, there are some times when I suggest things that are absolutely ridiculous. I say them with a straight face.
Yeah.
And then you see them writing them down. And I have to be like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That was a joke.
I didn't actually mean, don't.
Please do not order this medication for this patient.
Please do not use that scalpel to cut out, that body part.
Yeah. And so as far as ways that I've seen God work, I've seen him in situations that could have gone very wrong very quickly. Him really guiding us, and it's there definitely been times when it's been clear that God is superintending. I hate to say it's clear that God's at work, because God's always at work.
Yeah.
But God is superintending in the circumstance beyond what we would be capable of for the healing of our patients.
Yeah.
So
good.
Yeah.
I can probably assume he was definitely superintending when you're pulling, I think I asked you the other week, 36-hour shifts yourself as a resident.
That was as a resident.
Yeah.
And that was a period in time when I was a resident,
So when cocaine was still legal, that's how you got through the shift?
No. Anyway,
Vietnam era?
I was not a resident during the Vietnam era. My goodness. But when I was a resident, that's when they first came out with this 80-hour per week limitation.
Oh, how gracious of them.
Yeah. So
only 80.
Only 80 hours. And they had stipulations about how you weren't supposed to work more than 24 hours plus 4, which would be 28 if you're doing the math. The issue was that the program where I was training at the time hadn't really built the infrastructure and figured out, how are we going to make this work? And so they were in the process. And I was like, and the worst offender, of course, was cardiology. And cardiology was the area that I was wanting to go into.
Yeah.
Well, actually, cardiology was not the worst offender. Surgery was the worst offender. But so consequently, the governing bodies were busy trying to figure out what to do about surgery. And so no one was really paying attention to cardiology.
Yeah.
The cardiology was the worst offender that pertained to me. And so consequently, I was, I want to progress in cardiology. So I was working as hard as I can and basically justifying it to myself, that 80 hours is average, right? Average over,
You were married at this time?
Yeah.
Kids?
No kids.
Okay. So Mary saw you for 5 minutes or so?
Mainly asleep. Yeah. 5 minutes before I fell asleep. Anyway.
Wow.
Well, I am thinking that we may have to get to the rapid fire questions.
I see that too, because I know you got a hard stop at 4:00. All right, I do have my rapid fire questions ready. That's what I was just pulling up on my phone. And again, these are rapid fire.
And I have not reviewed these questions. So
I'm so excited.
Completely off the cuff.
Yes. I'm trying to think. We'll use that one too.
Yikes.
We'll go for it. All right, here we go. Easy one. A quick layup. A quick. What's the easiest procedure in cardiology?
So the easiest...
Because that's what this question would be.
Okay. So the easiest procedure in cardiology is what we call implantation of a loop recorder, which just goes under the skin. It takes about 5 minutes. You just stick it in, close up the skin, and you're done.
This will be the installation of a loop recorder, and some further down we'll get some conjugating of the Greek verbs to use that phrase for the fourth time in this podcast, which I don't know if that's ever been done before. All right, mountains or beach?
Mountains.
All right. What is your dream concert lineup? 3 musicians, dead or alive?
Well, live musicians are always more interesting to listen to than dead musicians. They play better.
It's not Mozart's bones up there. It's going to be Mozart himself in his prime. How about that?
Anyway, I mean, so my favorite living pianist is Andras Schiff. He's now in his 80s, and he plays just beautifully. Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, Schubert. He tends to play more of the older music. And then, if I could go back in time, if I had a time machine, I would love to go back to the 19th century and hear the composer Franz Liszt, who was evidently like the best pianist of all time. It would have been amazing to hear him.
Great. If I recall correctly, that's 2 musicians. Who's your third? Or did I miss one?
No, that's two musicians.
Math wasn't my strong suit in high school, so I'm trying to make sure don't make a donkey of myself.
Oh, as far as a third, and
Mary on the French horn?
Of course. There we go. No, I mean, I would love to get my own concert together.
Yeah.
And I love sharing music with other people.
Yeah.
In a performance setting. And that would be even more awesome, is to do a concert together with Mary.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we get into the works. All right, next question. Any run-ins with the law?
Oh, boy. So I did get pulled over a couple times when I was in medical school. We had rotations in different parts of Georgia.
Yeah.
And so I had to travel all over Georgia, and, may have missed speed limit sign change or two. And then there was this time late at night when I got pulled over, and the cop said, "Did you notice that one of your headlights is burned out?" And I said, "No. Is there any place around here where I can get one?" He's like, "No, I don't think so. Get one as soon as you can."
Use some logic to get out of that ticket.
Well, I mean, I didn't know any place around where I was.
Yeah.
Where there was a store that would be open.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Anyway,
Great.
The next day I got a headlight.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite book?
Besides the Bible, of course.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
And Mounce's book on Greek.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah. No, exactly. I think as far as fiction goes, it would be Lord of the Rings.
The trilogy as a whole, or one of the particular books individually?
I mean, I'm going to go with the trilogy as a whole, and I know some people might argue about using the word trilogy for that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul Tompkins, Matt Fudge, Matt Johnson, and whoever else, Ross Eller, if you're listening to this, any of the other diehard Lord of the Rings fans, if I misspoke.
I think we would consider it as one book. So,
I see. Yeah. I see. It's not 3 testaments. It's one book, huh? All right. I'm going to change this one a little bit in light of your childhood. Would you rather fight a horse-sized broiler or 100 broiler-sized horses?
Oh my goodness. What a question. So
there is a right answer. So
right. Yeah, I'm sure. Knowing
the lethargy of the broiler.
Yeah, knowing how chickens think and how horses think or don't, I would rather fight one horse-sized broiler chicken.
There we go.
Because, I mean, I could scare it pretty quickly.
For those city folks that don't know what a broiler is, it's just a meat bird. It's
Yeah.
the chicken that's grown for meat.
Meat chicken, yep.
Yes, the meat chicken. All right. What is your most recent "I'm getting old" moment? It seems that several are coming to mind.
Oh my goodness. We might need a podcast for that. Anyway, I my family is always good about pointing out how many gray hairs are on my head. And as far as most recent, I was talking with a patient today, and they were kind of going through the list of things they'd noticed about getting old, and I find myself sitting there nodding my head.
It's every single one.
Yeah. Anyway.
What is your favorite family tradition?
Well, I like how we've been able to go back and see both of our families every year.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe at different times during the year, but we're usually able to go back and see my family a couple times or a few times through the year, and Mary and the girls are usually able to go see her family several times during the year.
Yeah.
Most years, I'm usually able to go with them at least once.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is most important.
Right. If you were a piece of furniture, what would you be?
Well, do I look like a piece of furniture?
You do not. I'm just saying, if you were a piece of
Oh,
furniture,
my
what would
goodness.
you be?
That's like, where do you come up with these
Depending on
questions?
your answer, there may be a streak that begins now.
Okay.
So we'll see what you answer.
I am going to go with a bookshelf.
Ah, there we go. The streak is broken. It stopped at 2 with Luke and Zach.
Okay.
Both of them chose to be sitting furniture. So Luke wanted to be a barber chair, and Zach wanted to be a lounge chair.
Okay.
Which I remarked they just want to be sat on, it seems.
Yeah.
So thankfully you don't want to be sat on.
Well, I would like to be kind of stuck in a place with a bunch of books on hand.
There you go.
I think bookshelf would be perfect.
All right, 2 more. What hymn do you want sung at your funeral? That's a tough question. It is. To get the juices flowing a little bit, at my funeral, I want there to be a lot of tears, a lot of crying. I want there to be a little pond on the floor. So I want the sands of time are sinking at my funeral. Get a good cry session in there.
I think I am going to not answer this question. And I've got a good reason for that. And that is, so my grandmother on my mom's side was very vocal about what hymn she wanted sung at her funeral.
Uh-oh.
And the problem with that is every time that hymn was sung, my mom is thinking, oh yeah, this is the song that my mom wants sung at her funeral.
Yep.
And so I am going to leave it.
Yeah.
Like we're going to not answer that question.
That way Mary and the girls can enjoy that hymn for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not think about me dying every time that hymn is sung.
All right. And finally, what are you most encouraged by at Emmaus right now?
Well, right now, I'm encouraged that there's a plumbing truck out in the back. If you're talking about immediately.
Working toilets at the church.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I'm really, in terms of long-term, I'm really encouraged as to the trajectory of our church. Our church continues to grow. Our church continues to develop leadership.
Yeah.
And our members are growing, and it's really a great place to be.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Pastor, thank you for all that you do for our church, for shepherding us, praying for us, teaching us, and just modeling your life for us. It's been a very big encouragement.
thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. See you later.
Okay.